Hey guys, welcome back to another Diablo video. Now today we're going to be talking about the build that I used for Season 4. I know it's a bit late, but better late than never. So I decided to go to this season using a different build other than, the usual crit chance and crit damage. Maybe something that is unique to Diablo, like maybe overpower, maybe vulnerable damage. But I decided to go with that damage over time and decided to go for a class that I don't usually pick, Sorceress. And the skills that could trigger damage over time for Sorceress are Incinerate and Firewall. And I decided to go Incinerate because of one of the items I got, Tempered. It has like the affix, which is increased Incinerate size. And I saw the Incinerate became bigger. I was like, wow, that's cool. So yeah, from that point forward, I was just trying to build around Incinerate. Also, there's like other affix from legendaries that duplicates your Incinerate, makes it like 3 instead of just 1. So pretty cool. I like it. So yeah. Now, I tried so many different versions of this build. As you can see here in the stash, I leveled up so many different gears trying to find out which is the best one. Didn't really do a lot of research. I tried to explore the game myself. So is this the best Incinerate build out there? Probably not, but for me, this is like the best one that I was able to come up with. I haven't really fully leveled up the gear yet because it takes a lot of time, lots of pit runs, and it's just like, yeah, like I said here, I showed you the multiple gears that I tried to level up with different stats, like lucky hit and stuff. But yeah, I think what we have here is the best version that you could probably push for me. Let me know down in the comments if you have like a better version of the build. So before we go to all the pieces of gear, also the skills, I just want to show or explain the gameplay of this build. So what you do is you teleport to a group of enemies, and then one of your passive will trigger because you used a cooldown skill, and that skill will give you, or that passive rather, will give you barrier. And with all the passive bonuses from your gear like barrier generation, your barrier is gonna be pretty tough. Also, after you teleport or use a cooldown, it could be a flame shield, it could be your frost shield, whatever cooldown you want or use, you trigger the potion that will activate the unique chest that we have, and that will grant you additional barrier on top of the barrier from the passive. Okay, so let's talk about the armor pieces. Alright, starting off from the very top, we have the helm, we have the runic skull cup of the protector. Now protector is the affix. The affix for this piece of armor is the one that gives you barrier when you damage an elite. Alright, for the stats, we have intelligence, maximum life, mana per second, and barrier generation for the tempered affix, also maximum life. Now, you could throw in a different stats here, maybe Hydra if you want to use Hydra, but for me, I just want to go with the basic survivability and damage, so I'm going for intelligence and maximum life. Mana regen is pretty important. You don't really have to have many of that stat in the build. I only have this one, I think. Let me see. Yeah, pretty much that's it. Only 1 mana per second, but it's a greater affix. Kind of takes care of the mana problem for the build. Now we go to the chest piece. We have Soulbrand. Now this is a unique piece of armor, so no need of re-rolling stats or tempering is needed. Basically what it does is that it removes the healing capability of your potion and changes it that when you use the potion, it gives you a barrier. Right, so pretty nice. It does complement the barrier, having that affix of barrier generation. Also, the damage reduction from close enemies is pretty nice too. Okay, so now let's talk about the gloves. I have here the Boneweave Gauntlets of Conflagration. I hope I pronounced that right, but the imprinted affix for this one is the while channeling Incinerate, your burning damage is increased by 40%. Enemies that are damaged by Incinerate explode, burning all surrounding enemies for 8,400 damage. Alright, so the Incinerate affix. The stats that you want here is, ideally you want damage over time, but unfortunately I have maximum life here. I don't really have the resources to reroll it, but intelligence, damage over time, and then Incinerate plus 6. Pretty lucky that 2 of the masterwork went there. And then you want that fire damage over time for the tempered affix. Unfortunately, I got here fire damage, which is not bad. And then lastly, you want barrier generation. Pretty important, right? So that is the gloves. Okay, so let's talk about the pants for this one. We have the runic leggings of disobedience. The affix that I imprinted here is the one that gives you armor, and it stacks up to 40%. So any form of damage, you get a percentage of armor. Right now it's like 0.7. The stats that you want, for me, I went for the survivability, which is life and intelligence, and armor. I have barrier generation as the tempered affix, also maximum life. And I inserted 2 pieces of the rubies to give me an additional 9% life per piece. Now let's talk about the boots. One of the, I guess, important pieces for me in this build. This is the Adventurer's Boots of Bounding Conduit. Now the imprinted skill here, or affix, is the teleport cooldown is reduced by 2.5 seconds. Pretty important, guys. Keep in mind, we use teleport over and over again to generate the barrier. So very important that you choose this affix for your boots, right? Teleport cooldown reduced by 2.5 seconds. After teleporting, crackling energy hits 2 additional enemies for 5 seconds. And then the stats that you want here, the preferred stats that I want, is the +3 maximum evade charges. That will make us teleport more, right? And then maximum life. Movement speed is pretty important. Make sure that you get the movement speed because it will help you to clear the dungeons faster. And also +2 firewall. Pretty nice because like I said in the build, this build auto triggers lucky hit, firewall a lot. It will help you clear a lot of mobs throughout the dungeon. Now for the tempered affix, I have here teleport cooldown reduction. Very nice because again, once we could cast teleport again, we gain barrier, also damage reduction. And then for the secondary tempered affix, I went for barrier generation. So the boots is a pretty important piece. Keep in mind, take a look, and let's go to the next piece. Okay, so for the next piece of gear, we have the weapon, the unique wand Flamescar. Now, no re-rolling needed. Basically, just get a Flamescar. Hopefully, you get the one with higher Incinerate. I think this is originally like 4 to 5. I was able to get the 5. Someone gave me the item, but I was able to get the first masterwork to roll into that one. So I have like +8 to Incinerate. And then just put a amethyst there, so you get additional 18% damage over time. Right? Now that we are done with the left side of gear, let's go to the right side, starting on the very top, which is the amulet. I have here a pretty good amulet in my opinion. No greater affix or anything, but I have 2 passives that are pretty good. We have +3 to glass cannon, also +3 to inner flames, and then I have the tempered affix, fire damage over time, which is important for the build. Also, I have a flame shield on the secondary stat. I wish it was barrier generation, but flame shield is pretty good too. I will try a build maybe next season that instead of like barrier generation, I'm gonna go for cooldown reduction and just like a bunch of flame shield. But I think barrier generation is more effective. Now for the imprinted affix, I went for Incinerate, split into 3 beams, each dealing 128% of the normal damage. So also for the slot, I went for the skull. That gives me 525 armor. Okay, so now that we are done with the amulet, let's go with the rings. Starting off with the X-Fall Corroded Signet. This is the ancestral unique ring. Luckily, I got this ring 3 greater affix. Unfortunately, the masterwork didn't reroll on the stats that I wanted, but it's fine. This ring gives you 50 all stats, damage over time, some lucky hit chance, and cooldown reduction. Right? I guess if I have to choose, the most important stats here would be damage over time, also cooldown reduction. But the important thing here is the lucky hit, the affix, which is damage over time effects, have a 50% chance to erupt, dealing 39,700 damage of the same type to surrounding enemies. So it adds a little bit of burst damage to damage over time skills. Okay, so while I was recording, I saw that my other ring, this one didn't really have a socket, so I added a skull there. This is a new upgrade for me because the old ring was this one. So anyways, let's talk about the other ring for the build. We have the Circle of Intercom. The affix that is imprinted here is the one that gives you 10% bonus when you're standing still. Triple this bonus if you're standing still for 3 seconds. Now, if you see this icon on the left, on the top of the XP bar, that means that this affix is active. Now, the stats that you want here is probably like damage, intelligence. I don't really have a lot of rerolls left. In fact, I'm running out of I'm totally out of the materials for rerolling. But the important stat here would be damage over time. I got this ring which has like a greater affix of damage over time, so I went and upgraded this one. The affixes or stats for the tempered part of the ring that you want is fire damage over time. Also the lucky hit, it's not really that important. I was able to get this one which gives you resource. Really nice. Maybe this one is the one that is triggering, that's why I don't really run out of mana for this build. But I also have this one in the helm, mana per second 7, in combination with this one, the lucky hit on the tempered affix. I don't really run out of mana, so pretty important. I think it's up to you. Test it out if the lucky hit for the resource is really important or not. We are using the runic orb of engulfing flames. This has the affix of you deal 30% more damage to burning targets below 50% life. Additionally, you deal 100% burning damage to enemies while they are affected by more damage over time than their total life. So it's damage over time build. Pretty much all the burning affixes that you could get, just slap it to your gear. And the stats that you want here is the one that is really important is the tempered stat, which is Incinerate size. So usually when I get the item that I want, I do this first. I try to get the tempered affix correct, and I am not picky. Once it rolls, I picked it up. And then the other one is the fire damage over time. So not really the max roll, but I'm really happy that I got both of these tempered affixes on the item. Now, I have here 55% damage. Not really ideal. I could reroll the intelligence to something else, but for now it's okay. And then the socket, you want to put an amethyst. Okay, so now let's go to the skills. I'm gonna make it really short. We have like 2 points here. Max out Incinerate, get the passive here on the left side. And then Firewall, max it out, get the passive on the right side. Teleport, get the passive here on the right side. This gives you a 30% damage reduction, really important. And then go down here. I put 1 Ice Armor just for that additional cooldown skill that you could trigger the barrier. Right, and then the important thing here is this 3 passives here in the conjuration part of the skill tree. Max these all out. One of this gives you the cooldown, right? When you use a cooldown, you get a barrier for 3 seconds. Very important for the build. And then go here and get this. This is Icy Veil. Your barriers have like a 24% increased duration. And then get this passive here with this Inner Flames. Firewall, max it out because it's another form of damage over time. And then choose this Mage's Firewall for the other passive. Inferno, get the 2 passives and then get 1 point of Fiery Surge and max all the remaining fire passives here. And then choose Combustion as the specialty or key passives. Right, for the skill assignment, let me see here. Choose for your enchantment, Firewall enchantment. This will trigger lucky hit. We have like a few lucky hit on our build just because of the unique pieces of gear that we have. Trust me, it will trigger a lot, especially when there's like lots of enemies on the screen. For the other enchantment, go for the teleport enchantment. This will change your dash into a short teleport that will kind of not remove the buff. Even if you dodge or dash, this buff right here will not go away. This is the buff that you get from standing still. So every time you teleport, this buff doesn't go away. Okay, so now that we are done with the skills, let's go to the Paragon Board. I didn't do any rotation with the board, so we are starting from the very bottom, and I'm gonna just show what glyphs I made, okay, or chose. This is reinforced. I placed it on the first Paragon board and then took these nodes, and then the second board that I chose was the one with the searing heat, and then the glyph that I put here is Pyromaniac. All right, again, no rotation. I just go on the top, and then we have here the Paragon board that has Burning Instinct. Now the glyph that I put here is Flame Feeder, right? Then again, just follow, go to the top, and then the last board that I chose was this one, Enchantment Master. Your enchantments are 20% stronger, and then the glyph that I put here is Torch. All right, again, no rotation, just go upwards and just go here. Again, you know, if you're looking for the best sorceress build there, the best Incinerate, best fire sorceress build out there, this is probably not the video. I was just experimenting. As you can see, the pieces of the gear that I have on the video are not maxed out. But I think the benchmark for me moving forward, because I don't really have the time to max out, you know, all these items to masterwork 12. Because I don't really have a lot of free time, but I guess the benchmark would be as long as you could get to the last masterwork floor, which is I think 60 plus, maybe 61. That's good, you know. I did try out different builds, which I will share here on the channel, that is a bit of a variation of this Incinerate build. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.